Here we are in the season of Lent, and it's very important to remember that Lent is not a season of a contest. How long can I go without chocolate or coffee? It is not a season of self-help. How much weight can I lose by Easter? Lent is a season of conversion. It is a time for us to return to the Lord with our whole heart. We heard that in the first reading on Ash Wednesday. We also heard in the prayer on Ash Wednesday that Lent is a campaign of Christian service, a campaign that we go out and sort of wage spiritual war against sin and temptation, and we do that with the weapons of self-restraint, and those are fasting, prayer, and almsgiving. And so today on this first Sunday of Lent, the challenge is placed before us to resist temptation. As part of that campaign, that battle against evil, resist temptation. That's where it begins. And today, the 2026 Winter Olympics end. And I think that the Olympics have something important to teach us, because when you think of all of the athletes who competed this year, they had great determination. Great determination. And that helps us to resist temptation. I think of the person I saw who had, I think, the most determination in the Olympics, and that was the skier Federica Brignone, who about a year ago crashed while skiing at the Italian National Championship, and she broke her leg in several places, and she tore her ACL, and she had 2 surgeries and spent months in very difficult and painful rehabilitation, almost right up to the day that she competed in this year's Olympics, February 12th. On that day, she took to the slopes. She competed in the Women's Super G, which is an alpine ski race where you go down a very steep hill, about 70 miles an hour average, and you have all these twists and turns. And as she did that, she won the gold medal on that day. Imagine that. Less than a year ago, she had injured herself so much she thought she may never ski again, and with determination, she got back up and she won the gold medal this year. Many of you know I broke my wrist last year ice skating, and I certainly wasn't ready to compete in this year's Winter Olympics after surgery and physical therapy, so I give her a lot of credit. Maybe next year for me. It's amazing what we can do with determination. It's even more amazing when that determination is directed toward our relationship with God, especially when it comes to resisting the temptations that lead us to sin, that cause us to turn away from Him. So let's think about this. What is temptation? What happens when we're tempted? There is sort of a pull or an attraction to choose something that is disordered or wrong. Now let's look at how that happens in our first reading today from the book of Genesis. We have the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are in paradise. God has created it, has provided everything for them, all the trees, everything that they need, and they only have one commandment to keep. Don't eat of the tree in the center of the garden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why? Why not that tree? What will happen? Will their eyes be open and then they'll know things that they should know? No. Eating from that tree will cause them to think that they are gods and that they have the prerogative to determine for themselves what is right and what is wrong. You see why God doesn't want them to eat from that tree? That act of disobedience will give them the thought that, oh, I can determine for myself what is right or what is wrong, and that leads to disaster. It's disobedience and it's pride in its worst kind. Now notice what the devil does to tempt Eve to do it anyway. First, the devil seduces and flatters. He asks Eve, did the Lord really say you shouldn't eat of that tree? Which implies you're a mature, intelligent person. You're fully able to determine for yourself what is good for you. There's that pride from that seduction and flattery. The second thing the devil does is he tells Eve an outright lie. You certainly will not die if you eat of the fruit of that tree. In other words, the devil is saying, if God is saying this to you, it's because God is mean and jealous, and you should doubt His goodness. That's disobedience. And third, the devil offers Eve a twisted promise. Go ahead and eat of that tree, and yeah, your eyes will be opened. That's true. But what he doesn't tell Eve is they'll be open to all the wrong things, to the misery that he and all the evil spirits experience after having turned away from God. So temptation. whether it is coming from the devil himself, or from the world around us, or from the passions within us, thoughts within us, temptation can be very cunning. And it is a steep and slippery slope that eventually leads us to sin. What is sin? It's missing the mark. It is turning away from God and turning more into ourselves, choosing a lesser good than God himself. Let's think of the things that tempt us for a moment. What tempts us to sloth and anger and gluttony? What tempts us to envy and lust and greed? What tempts us to pride? There are many, many things. What are the ones that we struggle with the most right now in our own lives? And with that in mind, we turn to Jesus in today's gospel according to Matthew, because we see determination to resist temptation at its best from the Son of God. Jesus is in the desert, so now we have a reversal. Adam and Eve are in paradise in the garden. Jesus is now in the desert, where he's going to reverse their disobedience. So here's what happens. He fasts for 40 days and 40 nights. He's not doing this for himself. He's the Son of God. He's doing this for us. He took on our human nature. So he's there to reverse the disobedience of Adam and Eve by his obedience to the will of the Father. The devil shows up and tempts Jesus first to give in to pleasure. Command these stones become bread and satisfy your hunger. The devil then tempts Jesus to gain honor and glory. Go up to the top of the temple, throw yourself down, watch the angels come and rescue you, and make a great spectacle of yourself to gain this honor and glory. And finally, the devil tempts Jesus to go after power. The devil says to Jesus, all the kingdoms of the world I will give you, the devil I will give you, if you worship me. And what does Jesus do, especially with that third one? With great determination, he fights against the seduction and flattery. He exposes the outright lies, and he resists the twisted promises that are all part of these temptations. He says, get away, Satan. And then what happens? The devil leaves him, and angels come to minister to him. It probably seemed impossible, having fasted 40 days and 40 nights and being so hungry, but with determination and relying on God's grace, he was able to resist and to move to a better place. We can be determined like that because we already are in so many other acts and aspects of life. Think of all the determination that goes into being successful in business or stunning in appearance. Think of all the determination that goes into practicing a sport, developing a hobby, or being entertained. Think of all the determination that goes into staying connected, being relevant, and healthy. We can have great determination to do the possible, and like Federica Brignone, we can have the great determination we need to do the seemingly impossible. The question is, what if we live the Christian life with that type of determination? So this Lent today, as we begin, let's ask the Lord at this Eucharist for the grace we need to do that. First, to be aware, Lord, what tempts me? What tempts me to sin so that I can know about it and resist it? And then the determination and grace we need to get back up when we fall down, when we give into temptation and sin, to go to confession and to regain our status, our beautiful status as adopted sons and daughters of the Father. And also the grace we need through prayer, fasting, and almsgiving this Lent to strengthen our determination so that we can try and resist temptation once again, to get back up and to always keep going along the path the Lord places before us that leads us to Him.